Strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jac Ral.
Welcome back, Keepers. This is Keeping It Real. My name is Jack Phillips and you are?
Gabrielle Dolan.
And we are?
Keeping It Real with Jac and Ral.
Oh, I like that. It rolls off your
You
tongue.
were getting so much better at these introductions.
Well,
Well
that's
done.
because you growl at me every time.
Wow.
Talk about the intimidation. Anyway, speaking of which, what a perfect segue into this episode. A life lived in fear.
Yes.
Oh,
Don't
I'm a
you
bit
love
scared.
that quote from Strictly
it?
Ballroom? Baz
Baz
Luhrmann. A life lived in
Luhrmann.
fear is a life half lived.
God, who wants to live a half life?
Right.
I want to live a full.
Yes. But we thought this would be a useful episode because a lot of people make decisions in their life where fear is the driver of what could go wrong drives their decision. So we thought we'd have a look at what does a life live in fear look like? How does that actually show up on a daily basis? And then the opposite to that is a life of courage. And maybe some tips, well, not maybe tips, we'll give tips of if this is feeling familiar to you, if this is something you sort of go, oh my God, that's me, this might be useful.
Can I ask you a personal question? Do you know somebody who lives a life in fear? Don't need to name them, but do you know people?
I know lots of people that make decisions in their life based around what could go wrong.
So that must hold them back.
Mm-hmm.
Is that frustrating if you love and care for those people to see that happen, or it's not something you dwell on too much?
No, it is frustrating.
Because everyone's got potential.
Because you're sort of going, oh,
yeah.
Imagine but
what
you know,
could be.
it's real. And one of the things we'll talk about, if you have any form of anxiety, like even just mild anxiety, this shows up a lot more with people from anxiety.
So what does a life lived in fear look like? You're going to have to tell me this because I'm not up on this one so
And look,
much.
maybe a life lived in fear. I'm not saying they're walking around the whole time going, oh,
scared.
But it's things like what it looks like is decision making paralysis. So even really small choices like, where to go for dinner or whatever.
Okay.
It's
no, you pick. No, you pick.
overwhelming.
No, you pick.
So even small decisions on a daily basis can feel really overwhelming that they then don't make a decision. And when they got a big decision to make, it was like the big decision to make, do I do A or B? It's just like, well, I just won't do anything.
Too much.
Yeah, I won't do anything if things go wrong.
Paralysis.
So if you feel like, I just can't make a decision because it's like, what if I make the wrong decision?
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Okay. And I think a lot of people, at times I have had struggled to make a decision over something, but then I figured it out and made the decision and then just owned the decision.
Yeah, whether you want a
But what
Chardonnay
you're
or a
talking
Pinot.
about, Chardonnay or a Pinot, it was always a Chardonnay. But what you're talking about is where people just find it really difficult to make decisions daily.
Yes.
So really regularly.
Yeah,
okay?
So this is daily. The other thing how this shows up is that people who overthink and overanalyze and they get stuck in the what if loops. What if this happened? What if this happened? What if this happened? And so they're not they're avoiding something happening or they're avoiding doing something because of what they think the worst case scenario could happen, even though the likelihood of that happening is
very slim.
Is very slim.
I've coached people, and I think I've said this before, and they've said to me, you've got to help me because I need to get out of my own head.
Yeah.
Because they overthink.
Yeah.
And of course, thinking is what we give energy to.
Yeah.
So be careful about what we think about.
And the point is, if you're sitting there going, what if this happened? What if this happened? What if this happened? Then all of a sudden that decision you're making and that risk you're considering is bigger.
Yeah.
Like it's more. It's now all of a sudden it's bloody catastrophic, and it was like, well, of course you're not going to do it, but it's the constantly, what if this happens? What if this happens? And sometimes, and I think this is the sad thing, it leads to avoidance. It's like I'm not even going to put myself into that situation at all.
Wow.
I see this in work a lot, like networking. Situations.
Yeah.
People sort of go, oh God, it was like, they just hate it so much. And, what if no one talks to me? And what if I get stuck with a dickhead? What the what if loops.
Yeah, the what if loops.
And they go, you know what?
Overthinking.
I'm just not going.
Wow. Just avoids it altogether.
Just avoid it altogether.
Jeepers. Which, you know, might seem the easy way out, but they could have missed out on a real opportunity to meet some interesting people to change their life trajectory. I mean,
Yeah.
and then how does that manifest? Do you then never go to another networking thing again? Or do you then start saying, well, actually, I just don't want to go out?
Yeah.
Because this could happen to me even if it's not a networking event.
Yeah. You should always analyse risks. I mean, I'm not saying we don't, you think of the risk.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people go, okay, bad thing could happen, like they don't like me or no one talks to me, so I'm not going to go. When the other risk is what you've just said, they've potentially missed out on making a really good connection that, could have led to a job opportunity or whatever. So there's always risks, but I don't think they're thinking of the other risks. Like even just asking someone out on a date. Now the risk is they say no.
Sure.
But the other risk could be you miss out on the love of your life.
Lifelong partner, that's very true. Or having a great time.
So I think sometimes it's thinking about, well, what's the other risk?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I was, 25 years ago, I was in Turkey and travelling with friends, and one of the guys wanted to do, it's not skydiving,
parasailing,
but it's tandem. You go up a mountain and jump off the mountain on a tandem
parasail.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we decided to do it, and we were driving. There was about like 10 of us, right? And we're in this bus, and it's in Turkey, and we're driving up the mountain. And this guy driving up. First of all, there was a clear drop. The roads were really bad, and all I remember this driver going so fast. And at one stage,
you're young, so this is, at a time when you don't sort of, the speed is everything, you just go fast.
Oh God, I wouldn't even bloody do it now. But,
wow, but at the time,
I remember one time he was trying to grab his smokes, like he had a packet of smokes on the dashboard, and because he's going around these bends on the thing, the smokes kept sliding
along the dashboard.
And he's driving with one hand trying to grab his smokes, and I'm just going to go, oh my God, we're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die.
Before you've even dived off the cliff.
And so I get to the top of the mountain, and it was actually the wind had started to pick up, and they were telling us. Anyway, I got to the top of the mountain, and I thought, there is not a hope in hell I'm getting back into that bus to drive down the mountain with crazy driver.
Oh, I see. You would actually fly down the mountain.
I literally am going to jump off this mountain as opposed. So there was two risks there, and I do remember
that's risk mitigation.
That's got up, and because the wind was starting to pick up, they had all these different instructors. He looked at me and go, "You and my friend." He goes, "Are you two together?" We went, "Yeah, right." He goes, "You two are first." We got on,
and then go.
Before I knew it, I was running, and then there was nothing beneath me, but. I don't know why I told that story, but
well, it's a good
two
example.
Risks. It's two. There's always another risk.
Good example. You were risky. Did you love it? Was it a great experience?
Yeah, I did. Steve was waiting down the bottom for me. He did not love it at all.
That wasn't his idea.
No. He was, I think, very.
That's so funny.
I think he, because this was a long time ago. I think his risk was going home and telling my mother that. that I was dead on a mountain in Turkey somewhere.
Yeah, and him having to be the bearer of the news.
Yeah.
Okay, so a life lived in fear is a life half lived. We agree with that, and you've really well explained to us how that can look, particularly good for people that are listening, because you might not realise you're holding yourself back.
You know what? Another how it plays up is constantly asking people for reassurance.
Validation.
Do you think I should do this? Do you think I should do this? And you're just asking people so
like
much.
What would you do?
Just like, just do it.
Just do it, yeah. But they find that very hard. They want reassurance, like you said, or validation.
Yeah.
I get asked that a lot. I had somebody come to me recently and said, your coaching's got to change my life, so you've got to do this for me, and I'll need you to do. And it's like, wow, no. The responsibility's on you, darling, not me. I will absolutely support you to the hilt, but at the end of the day, I'm not here just to validate and change your life. You will do that. It's about what you take.
But I guess if you find yourself, if you're the person constantly asking people what would they do, what would they do, what would they do, the reality is it's...
Or should you do it, should you do it, should you do it, and looking for that reassurance. No, agree. Okay, so a life lived in fear. Look, you and I, we might have been described as fearless. That doesn't mean to say we don't have fear. Everybody has fear. What's the opposite of a life lived in fear? Well, it's a life lived with courage, which I'd like to think that we will inspire and encourage and help others do. So let's just be clear though, Raul, courage isn't fearlessness.
No. I think I love the
Courage
definition
isn't
of courage
fearlessness,
is feeling the fear and doing it
Correct.
anyway.
It's choosing to act even when fear is present.
Yes,
You're
love it.
absolutely right. So it's not the absence of fear, yeah?
No.
It's the decision that something else matters more, whether that be the truth, whether that be growth, whether that be integrity, your future self, whatever it is, recognizing actually that matters more, so I'm going to take the step.
Yep.
So courage is choosing yourself. It's a bit selfish, which I don't mind.
Mm.
Courage is choosing yourself even when it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, so if fear says, what if I fail? Courage says, what if I don't fail? What if I fly off a mountain in Turkey?
Yeah. What's that? There's an inspirational quote, isn't it? That someone says, what if I fail? And they go, but my darling, what if you fly?
Yeah,
Something.
it's quite nice, isn't it?
It's on posters everywhere.
It is, memes and things. Okay, so what does a life lived in courage look like, especially at work, yeah, or for your career? So it looks like leaving a good job that's wrong for you. We've spoken about this before.
Yeah, we spoke that on a previous episode.
It looks like speaking up when something doesn't align with your values, even if it's unpopular. That takes courage.
That takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. It looks like changing lanes at 40, 50, 60, 70 years of age when everyone else says,
You're
oh,
talking
you're
about-
too old, you're
talking
too
about
late.
Changing lanes is kilometres when you're doing 40 kilometres, 60 kilometres.
When you're 40 years of age, 50,
Yeah.
60, 70 years of age, it's saying, actually, I want to change tack here. I might want to do something different. We were talking earlier today about some of the changes you're going to make this year. It's bloody exciting.
Yeah.
Really exciting. It looks like asking for what you're worth. We've done podcast episodes on this.
We have.
Yeah, knowing your value. What you're worth, pay, opportunities, respect, even when it feels easier just to stay quiet. I coach a lot on this one.
I read a quote the other day. It was in particular to speaking fees, like as a speaker.
Yeah, it's relevant
and
to you.
it said, I'm not going to say it word for word. It's like it's not a speaking fee; it's a declaration of value. I love that.
I like
So
that.
and that's with the salary negotiation.
Yeah.
It's not your salary; it's a
No.
declaration
of your value. That's exactly what it is. It looks like risking judgment to follow what feels truer to you, not just what looks good on LinkedIn. Isn't that true? And it looks like stopping the race you're in if you realise you don't even want the trophy at the end. So we were talking about sunk cost fallacy in a previous episode, right? Stopping the race, you're in it, if you realise you don't even want the trophy at the end. So living a life of courage is messy, it's brave, it's honest, it's human, it's real. And it's full of moments that make your heart race, but later it'll make your soul sigh with relief. Oh, beautiful. Is that not poetry?
Did you make that up?
So, of course I did. Someone who's spent 15 years climbing the corporate ladder but realises that they're deeply unhappy.
Yep.
Now we know people, right? We coach them. We talk to them. You do workshops with them. You do keynotes with them. Courage isn't just tolerating it better. Courage is questioning the whole ladder, stepping off and building a career that actually
Can I go back
fits
to that ladder metaphor?
who they are now. So this whole thing around living a life in fear that holds you back, what we're suggesting is to flip that. You need to live a more courageous life. That doesn't mean to say you are not fearful. You will be, but it's taking steps and actions to actually make a change.
Yeah.
Right?
And you see that like a lot of people go, oh, look, my job's crap, but, I wouldn't get another job. It's like,
hello?
why
not?
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah.
Exactly right. So fear asks, what will people think? Whereas courage asks, what will I think when I look back on this moment? And I love that.
So that's the selfish thing.
Selfish
It's like,
thing.
Well, what would
it's about
I think?
me. Exactly
as opposed
right.
to what others would think.
Can you remember that fantastic book you were telling us about from that fantastic author that you saw live not so long ago, Melissa Gilbert?
Oh, Elizabeth
Gilbert, not Melissa
yeah.
Gilbert. Melissa
Yes,
Gilbert was an actress on that Little House on the Prairie. I just
Melissa
remembered.
Gilbert.
Was an actress on Little House on the Prairie.
Look
Can
how
you
old
remember that?
No, Nana, but I never watched Little House on the Prairie.
It was in black and white when I used to watch it.
Clearly
There
you are
you
much
are.
older
I
than
was
me.
only about one.
Clearly, you're much older than me. But she,
Elizabeth Gilbert, the driver's seat.
Big magic.
Yeah, but can you remember that? I mean, you won't remember it all word for word because it was quite a piece, but you read it in one of our episodes, and it was about who's in the driver's seat.
Yeah. That was in our
And
episode.
don't let fear be in the driver's
I
seat.
do believe it was claiming your genius.
Genius, I think it might have been.
And it was literally saying, she writes a letter to fear saying, we're going on a car ride. Me and creativity going on a
That's
car
right.
ride. She talked about you're more than welcome to come along.
Join me.
I know you'll do your job, and your job is to bloody scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, that's right. And grab the wheel.
And it was literally saying, but you will not take the driver's seat. And I think that's what it comes down to. If you're letting fear take control of the driver's seat, like take control of the wheel,
which means take control of your life, obviously.
Yes, it's
it's not going to end well.
Then you're living a life in fear.
That's exactly
because
right.
you're letting fear make the decisions as opposed to courage making the decisions. Now, again, I want to say people that do have anxiety, this is a real issue for them.
Oh, totally. Full empathy. Yep.
I don't, and so it's part of me's going, just do it, give it a crack.
Just so
and
easy for us.
I know that's very difficult.
It's not, but the whole point of keeping it real is helping people recognise where they might not be living a full life and where they can make some change. You've got some tips around this, which I think is great. I've got an exercise for our keepers to try.
Okay.
So why don't you go through the tips? Because if they take down the tips, then I reckon the exercise will be easier to do.
Okay, excellent planning. It's
Off with you there.
We plan this. So I think it starts with micro risks, and we talked about this when we've done it. We've done episodes before on confidence, for example, and confidence being a muscle. Don't lift heavy straight away. Start with micro risks. So just gradually start going. I'm
going to make the decision.
Make the decision. Do that. Then everything turned out right. The other thing, especially if you're getting into this that overthinking loop, what if this happened? What if this happened? Just stop and take a reality test and go literally, what is the likelihood of that happening?
So I'm hearing separate emotion from fact.
Yeah.
Okay. So use data or subjectivity as opposed to the mind running mad.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And especially if your what if reasons for not doing it is like other people won't like you or other people will think this. You've got that is just a made up story because
Totally
you've got
right.
no idea how
Other
they'll
people.
respond.
And it's none of your business what other people think
So
of you,
I
actually.
would literally be saying take a real reality check and ask for evidence that is feeding that story that you're playing.
Cool.
I think this is a really important one, is just accept that discomfort is normal.
I hate discomfort. I'm into comfort at this age. I get it. But the change is inevitable. Uncertainty happens every day. Shit's going to happen.
Feeling anxious about something. I actually teach this when I do presentation workshops and people go, I get really nervous before speaking.
Sure, common.
And I go, fine. There's some things you can do that reduce that, but just accept that that's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And we can do things to reduce it. What we don't want to do is for you to say, no, I'm going to give up on that opportunity to speak because I know I will get nervous.
Yeah. You'll never eliminate it, is your point.
Yeah, so don't
work
need
through
to
it.
eliminate. So accept that whatever this form of discomfort you have around, just accept that as normal.
That's just
It's
how
normal.
it is.
That's how it is.
That's how it is. I like that.
That's how it is. It's like, and it is normal. So accept that. If you identify that you're one of those people that, just keep
validation.
asking people,
Yeah.
what would you do? What would you do? What would you do? Again, not saying don't ask anyone because sometimes it is useful
Helpful.
to get
Yeah,
feedback.
Sure.
But don't ask 10 people.
No. And
Maybe just ask 1 or 2 people.
and maybe don't ask every time.
Yes, and don't ask
So it's
every
limited.
time.
It's just pull back a bit on that. Yeah.
And I think the other one, and again, I talk about this when I do presentation training, especially if people get anxious, is visualize. Now, we've talked about positive visualization. It's not visualizing success, it's visualize coping.
Oh, say that again.
So it's visualizing coping, not necessarily success. So the way I do this is when I teach people, they get nervous at presenting. Part of you can go through is my positive visualization is, okay, I'm going to get on, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to open with this story. I'm going to do that. People are going to ask me questions, and you positive visualize it. But part of that is, okay, I'm sitting down. I know that I'm going to get nervous. Then I'm going to stand up And then,
Okay,
the
so
nerves are going to go away.
You're already
you're
living this moment.
visualizing your coping. So if you know from past experiences that this is when I've made this decision, I don't know, it could be, it could be as simple as throwing a party, but knowing you always get nervous before, people go, what if no one comes? You visualize that. I go, I'm going to the party. It's an hour before. That's when I'm going to get nervous.
Yeah.
It's like,
So prepare
again,
for that.
show me the evidence.
Yeah.
Have you ever thrown a party
Party
and
and
no
no
one's
one's turned
ever
up?
come up?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't happen. And so you visualize that. So again, it goes back to accepting discomfort is normal.
Yeah.
So you visualize for that coping.
Okay.
To get through it.
So you prepare for what if it doesn't go well? How would I act? What would I need to do? So I'm prepared for the worst,
Yeah.
even though it's not the worst.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, so because if you're not ready for that, and I'm going back to the speaking thing again, but people said, oh, okay, I'm doing this speaking. And then they start going, oh my God, I'm getting nervous. And then I knew I'd get nervous. I hate speaking. And then it becomes a downward spiral
perpetuates.
as opposed to going, I'm getting nervous. I was like, yeah, well, that's just part of it. It's normal. We'll get through it.
I like it. Okay, so your tips were start with micro risks, yeah? Don't just jump in and think you're going to take one great big bloody risk, because what we're trying to do is to reduce your life lived in fear. A reality test. What evidence do you have before you start telling yourself all these, Netflix sort of worthy drama stories? Accept discomfort as normal. Life is uncertain. It is changeable. Lots of things happen. Limit reassurance seeking, yeah? So start making decisions without actually needing validation, even if it's, one a day, but just start to get more comfortable with being confident in the decision you're making, and then visualizing coping, and not just the success part of the visualization. I like that. I think those are really good tips, Ral. I've got an exercise for our keepers, particularly if you're somebody who does get anxiety, who does feel after listening to this episode that you might be living a bit in fear and you might be living a bit of a half life. So grab a notebook, or even just think about this for a minute as you're listening to us. Answer these 3 questions. I want you to do this in your mind.
I'm intrigued.
Ral.
I don't know what you're going to ask me.
Number 1, where in my career am I staying small because of fear?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2,
podcasting.
What would the courageous version of me do next? Couldn't get a better co-host than me, so it wouldn't be that.
Okay, so repeat that again.
What would the courageous version of me do next? So where in my career am I staying small because of fear? Maybe it could be I'm not doing my role to the extent I could be in order to get the promotion I want. Mm-hmm. What would the courageous version of me do next? Oh, take on something, a new project, in order to demonstrate that I can do this role and more.
Yep.
That's an example. Number 3, final question. What tiny first step could I take this week toward that courageous action? Not a massive leap, just a small move. Courage is built one step at a time, as we know.
Yep.
So an example could be, if in my career I'm staying small because I'm not really demonstrating I can do this role above, the courageous version of me would be to take on something additional as part of the project, or come up with a concept or an idea to show I can do that. And then the third thing would to actually go to my manager or leader and say, I want to do this and I want to do it as part of my development. I'm prepared to put in the time and the effort. I just want you to know. Yeah. Because then you're being held accountable for it as well.
I like that. That would so easily apply to your personal life as well, to say.
That's true.
What's something I want to do but I'm holding myself back.
I'm staying small because of fear.
Then go, if I didn't have fear, what would my courageous thing do? And you're
what would I do
next? You're going to be able to answer that.
Course,
like you're going to go, well, my courageous person would do that.
My alter
And then
ego.
you go, okay, then what's a small step you could do towards that? And just make a small step towards it.
Yeah. This is about, and keeping it real is all about being honest about ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. Bugger anyone else and what they think of you. How do you think of you? Yeah. And if you think of you as not being courageous enough, you can change that. So fear might always be in the car with you, but courage is choosing who gets to drive.
Yep. Yes.
So I think that hopefully that little exercise, number 1, where in my career am I staying small because of fear? Number 2, what would the courageous version of me do next? And number 3, what tiny first step could I take this week toward a courageous action? give it a crack.
Give it a crack. I like that.
Great episode.
I think our keepers could do that. If you're listening to this, which you are clearly, because I'm saying if you're listening to this.
Because you're loving listening to this.
And let us know if you've take Jac's advice and
Courage check-in exercise.
let us know how you go. Okay, that is another episode wrap for Keeping It Real with Jac and Ral. As usual, give us, if you like it, share it with other people. Give us a 5-star rating. And we will see you
Next week.
next week.
Bye.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jac and Ral. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keehlan Ferrari-Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.